Good day, my name is Elvin Green, and this is my community presentation of historic Fishtown. As you see the map on the bottom right-hand side, Fishtown will be located somewhere between the yellow, which is North Philly, and the upper north, which is that, I would say, turquoise color. As it relates to historic Fishtown being a good community, I have to say, although I only lived in this community for 8 months, thus far I would consider it a good community in comparison with our example of a good community. A good community simply states, or how one can analyze a good community is to see the design and efforts of people to control and improve their living conditions. And within that, there's 9 key elements, which is safety, goods and services, relationships that bind citizens, commonality of values, whole person principles, predictability, recognized place in social structure, and opportunities. As I stated, I only lived here for 8 months, but the community appears to be full of diversity. A bunch of young professionals are in the area. There is a low crime rate. Consumer goods are easily available, and there appears to be a sense of community values regarding scenery, opportunities, and a whole person principle. As we look at this map and of Fishtown and the surrounding boundaries, before we go into the map, I would just like to share that Fishtown, or another word for it, will be called River Ward. The River Ward boundaries will be the Delaware River, Frankfort Avenue, all the way up to York Street. But as we look at the map, Fishtown, which is in the yellow, surrounds its boundaries is Northern Liberty, Kensington, Port Richmond, Old Richmond, South Kensington, on and on. But the main barriers or the main boundaries will be the Delaware River, Frankfort Avenue, and York Street. The population in Fishtown resides at 12,496 people. There's 6,434 males, 6,062 females. It's a mixture of young, diverse, active, working professionals, and a large part of that population has not or never been married. And it makes sense because since I've been here, it just seems to be that everyone is always on the move. Everyone always appears to be busy and doing things to, further their life goals and better, I guess, their situation as it relates to future endeavors. Um, as we continue with the people or population, as it relates to the ethnicity or race, the white population makes up 80.17% in relation to Pennsylvania's rate of white population, which is 81.37%. As we look at blacks, it's 7.84% in Fishtown. As it relates to the Pennsylvania average, it's 11.3%. As we look at Asians, it's 4.56 in Fishtown. As it relates to the Pennsylvania average of 3.14. As we see, the average age is 33, and the predominant religion in the area of historic Fishtown is Catholic. It's the Catholic religion. As we move on to the socio-economic status of this population, close to 13,000, as it relates to education, 21% have received their master's degrees, 33% have received bachelor's, and 17% have, completed some college. There's an annual average of income close to 80,000. And if you look at the chart below, it states between the ages of 25 and 44, the average median income is somewhere a little bit between $90,000 and $100,000. This appears to has some factual content to it, being that there's a lot of new homes being built up, 6-figure homes at that, new schools, new lofts, new rent penthouses. There's a lot of real estate in this area that's rising, and people are moving in. So there was a study done where several people were asked, or a large population of people were asked, and Fishtown, what is one word that would describe Fishtown? And you have 75% would describe Fishtown as friendly, 25% would describe Fishtown as progressive. So when you look at the good community and as it relates to safety, some of the things that we talk about, minus natural events, and we can all say safely, it would appear that being on the East Coast, natural events are far and few, or very few, I should say, as it relates to other areas on the map, like the Midwest and the West Coast. But as it relates to safety, some of the things, it would be less traffic, clean air, safe place to work, low crime rate. As we look at the crime rate, you see the chart in the top left-hand corner that shows the low crime rate in Fishtown as it relates to the years of 2019 and 2020. So according to Common.com, Fishtown is named as one of the best Philadelphia neighborhoods for young professionals. Fishtown also has the distinction of being one of the safest in the city. In fact, it has been named as one of the top 10 safest Philadelphia neighborhoods, and that is due to its low number of violent property and total crimes per person. Again, the chart at the top left-hand side would lead to that fact. As it relates to environmental risk, that is something somewhat prevalent in Fishtown, it would be the exposure to lead poisoning. So with many of the new homes and buildings being developed in the area called River Ward, it was recently found to have high levels of lead. This is according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. After a 2-year report called Toxicity was released, Philadelphia created 4 new laws that would create a cleaner environment in Fishtown. 770 landlords were fined. $15.7 million were allocated for emergency school repairs. 700 visits by health inspectors in areas with high levels, in which the city allocated $900,000 more to protect kids from lead paint in their home. Lead Safe is the program leading the way to remove the environmental risk. Pennsylvania has a high percentage of cases in relation, Fishtown has a high percentage of cases in relation to the national average. Pennsylvania is 6.7, and the nation's average is 2.6. So I just want to reiterate that again. Pennsylvania has a high percentage of cases in relation to the national average. Pennsylvania is 6.7, and the national average of exposure to lead poisoning for children is 2.6, according to the CDC. So as we move on to our community, I definitely can tell in Fishtown there is a sense of community values. There is a sense of a whole person principle, although things have kind of been moving slow due to the pandemic. But when we look at the formal institutions in Fishtown, you have the Fishtown Neighborhood Association, which are a group of people who get together to talk about ways to continuously improve Fishtown. You have the Fishtown Neighborhood Cleaners who get together and clean up certain areas of Fishtown, plant trees and things of that nature. You have the Montessori School, which is a Catholic school. You have the Urban Worship Center, which is a church. And you have the 24th, 25th, and 26th police districts. Informal institutions will be the Youth Emergency Shelter, which is a shelter for homeless teens, the indigent, widows, and single women, which is residence for these particular selected females of the population. You have the soup kits, and you have Filler Abundance, which is an organization that provides free food for homeless and other populations that are in need, or families that are in need. That will bring me through my references. As we can see, all the references that I utilized for this presentation. And thank you for your time.